Welcome to Welcome Home Doggy, a show that works to create a better quality of life for all dogs. I'm your host, Ariana Lasha, and today's guest, Larissa Wohl, is a phenomenal woman. You've seen her as a host on Hallmark Channel, and she's a pet rescue expert. So stay with us. You don't want to miss this one. We'll be right back. Hi, Larissa. Thank you so much for joining us today, all the way from Nashville.
Absolutely. I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for having me to talk about something that's so close to my heart and important.
Absolutely. You are the pet expert, so we are definitely going to pick your brain. We're going to get all of these questions answered and all of your expertise about the animal welfare community.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am. So you have dedicated your life and your career to animals, to animal welfare, and I just want to know how you got started. What was your inspiration for that?
Oh, I love this question. Thank you. My mom, who was from England, she passed away quite a while ago, but growing up as an only child with under her care, for the most part, my dad was always at work making the money, whereas my mom was home with me being a stay-at-home mom. So she was kind of my person. And she had a heart for the underdogs. She grew up in a household that didn't actually allow her to really have animals. She did a couple times during her life, but her dad was very tough on her and didn't really let her explore that side of her passion. So when she was on her own and living in LA, she just loved to rescue. And so that's what I grew up with, was stopping, on a given day, pulling over if there was a lost dog running around, or, we used to get this kind of community newspaper that would have a dog of the week or a rabbit of the week. And I swear she would see one and say, all right, pack your bags, we're going to the shelter. And we would either adopt the animal, or many times we'd pull into the parking lot, and lo and behold, someone would be pulling in and bringing in an animal they could no longer care for. And my mom would run out and say, nope, we'll take it. Before you even enter those doors, give them to us. So we were always just that go-to household where, if you had an animal in need, or if you found an animal and didn't know what to do with it, they called us. So that was where that love really came from. And then as I got older and started really watching shows about animal rescue and rescuing my own first dog, and realizing that this was not just my crazy mom issue. This was a national crisis of just how many animals are out there with nothing. And it really kind of kicked me in the butt to do whatever I could. And I started volunteering, and I worked in news at the time. So I started trying to do news stories about, whatever was going on, the good or the bad, just to bring awareness to the communities. And it kind of became my little area of expertise. And then I landed at Hallmark and was able to kind of pursue it even more. So that's where it originally came from.
Well, I wouldn't call your mom crazy, because that sounds so fun, just being like,
well,
here's a new animal.
Growing up, I thought she was crazy. Now looking at her, I think she was exceptionally beyond her time, because she was doing this before it was ever a thing. I mean, it was never a rescue. It was never a, let's post online to get any kind of accolades. I mean, she just did it because that was bred in her.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I think it's also beautiful how you said you were working in news, but you were able to kind of marry your passion for animals. And now you host the pet adoption segment on Home and Family. Tell us about that.
Well, it was so interesting because every news station I worked with, for the most part, I worked morning hours. So I was off around 11 a.m., noon, and everybody else is at work. So what was I to do all afternoon? I started volunteering at all the shelters. And so that's how these stories would kind of come to me of, somebody just donated $10,000 to the shelter, or, a local kids group sold cookies and brought in $45 to help the animal. All these really sweet community stories. Not every news director I worked with had the same passion that I did. I think they looked at me like, another animal story, Larissa. No. But when I started over at Hallmark and for the morning show Home and Family, I was purely behind the scenes. I was producing, and although everybody there knew that I was a big rescuer. And so when the network head or network executive at the time wanted to move in the direction of bringing more awareness to animal rights and animal welfare, it was kind of a no-brainer. I met with him and he said, please, run with it. You know what you're talking about. Let's make it happen. And so it was a really wonderful way for us to combine all of our passions and the fact that we had a platform. So it was wonderful.
And I saw your dogs running in the background. Maybe we'll see them. There's one sleeping right
There's Maple.
Yeah, we might see them again pop up during the interview, but
they probably will.
Yeah, they're rescues, right?
Yes. So I have I have four. One was my first rescue, who then my parents fell in love with, so they stole her from me. So I see her often, but she's no longer technically mine. And so I now have my three little ones that I rescued after, that I adore and keep me laughing all the time.
They are funny. I always say that, like, dogs are so funny. You can actually laugh at them, their personalities. It's great.
If nothing else, obviously I rescue and I support rescue for the animals. But I do have to say, what they give you back is tenfold. And the amount of laughing is so, and we know that helps you. Laughing, smiling is good for your health. It's good for longevity. It's good for socialization, just human socialization. And so having these dogs that I look at them and all three of them are so different and react to things so differently and have the weirdest mannerisms, but you just can't help but sit there and laugh and just love them to pieces. And they just bring you so much more than I think you ever expect.
I agree with that 1,000%. I know you just spoke a little bit about your work in shelters, but let's talk about that in a little bit more detail. What are some of the problems that you're seeing in shelters currently that you want everyone to know about, and like, what can we do, to combat some of that?
No, thank you. Gosh, I could talk for a long time on this. The shelter system is really tough. I think people are under the impression that shelters are this kind of magical place that animals land when they're, homeless, and they go on to find their, forever family. And some are, I will say, and don't get me wrong, many, many shelters and rescue organizations have come so far and are doing amazing work. I don't want anyone to ever think that I don't recognize that. The problem is there are still so many shelters and rescues that are just so overrun with animals that the best of intentions just can't even be played out. Because when you've got 50 dogs, 100 dogs, 400 dogs, you just don't have the manpower, the time, the resources to put into each animal what they deserve. So people with the best of intentions just get completely overwhelmed. And our shelter systems right now are just overflowing. I think between the pandemic and kind of the fallout of the pandemic, and just the fact that so many shelters weren't able to keep their doors open as they were because of the pandemic, and they weren't able to do fundraising events like they normally would be because we couldn't do anything in person, it really has hit them hard, and they are struggling. They are really struggling. And I hope that people have some compassion for the rescue workers, because they do a lot and they don't get a lot of thanks. And I think right now we are seeing such a crisis with our overpopulation, especially older dogs and cats, or older animals in general, behavior issue animals, medical issues. I think I understand when somebody has an animal that they can no longer care for, whether it's financially or, there's behavior being exhibited by the dog that they don't know how to handle. The problem is, I think everybody thinks, okay, well, then I'll bring the dog to the shelter because it's not working for me. And they don't think about the fact, well, what happens then? I mean, it's not, as I said, this magical land. It's a land where there's only so many kennels and so many places to house these dogs. And there's only so many households that will turn around and say, you know what? This big dog, has some behavioral issues, but I'm going to take it on. I'm going to do it. I mean, it just doesn't happen. And so these dogs have nowhere to go, and cats and all animals. But, for the most part, we think of dogs, in the rescue world as being such a big issue. So I just think that right now shelters are so overrun. They're really strapped for human help and financial help. And there's just nowhere to go. And in addition to some of these big shelters that we all think of, LA County has a lot of big shelters, Atlanta, every big city has shelters. But there are also so many outlying rural areas in every state that have shelters that nobody ever knows about, nobody ever thinks about, nobody ever donates to, nobody ever walks in to adopt. I mean, it's just a never-ending problem. But to keep things light and happy, there are things people can do. There's a lot of things people can do. First, spaying and neutering is so important. We are never really going to get to the bottom of the problem and fix anything if we continue to breed and have more and more and more, because it's like, somebody once said, you can, if you're in a boat that's sinking, you can pick the water out with a bucket, but eventually you need to stop the leak in order for the boat to last, or you're going to go down. And so spaying and neutering is that. We have to continue doing that on a large scale. The other thing is donating. Obviously, if you can, financially is great. If you can't, a lot of these places now have Amazon wish lists. So if you have an extra $3, $6, $8, $15, a lot of these shelters set up an Amazon wish list so that, you can actually pick an item that works within your budget and it gets sent directly to them. Also donating your time, volunteers, take those dogs for walks. So many of, especially these rural shelters that have 400 dogs and 3 employees, these dogs don't get out on a daily basis. Go hang out there for an hour or two, take the dogs out, let them get some energy and sniff around and get some fresh air. It adds to their health. It helps them get or become more adoptable. If you've got special skills like writing or photography, or you want to learn photography, use them as your examples. Go spend a couple hours at a shelter and take pictures of the animals or videos and post online and network them. I mean, that is how most of these animals get seen. And people forget that they can do something like that and it actually makes a difference. The other thing is fostering. I'm a huge foster advocate, and especially going into the holidays and all year round, but especially going into the holidays, giving these animals a break from their confined shelter space where they do get a little stir crazy as humans would, is such a benefit. So even if it's for a few hours, even if it's for a week, even if it's for a weekend, different shelters and organizations offer different types of fostering. But it is so magical for the animal, and it is such a great experience for the human. Now, don't get me wrong, there are moments of frustration because this animal may never have been an indoor animal. This dog or cat may never have eaten in with a bowl. They may just know dog food, shoved outside on the floor, and that's what they're used to. So it's a learning process, but it's such an amazing, magical experience to see an animal go from not knowing what tile floor is and or how to walk through a doorway to all of a sudden, sleeping on a couch. Right. And curling up at your feet, or, learning what a dog bed is. All those little milestone steps are just really amazing to witness and to be part of. And it helps them be better dogs and better pets and become more adoptable. So there are so many things people can do. As I said, for anything from networking an animal on social media and sharing a post to actually adopting or fostering and anything in between.
I was going to say, what exactly do people need to do? But look, you touched it all. You said we can foster, we need education, spay and neuter programs.
There's so much bad in this rescue world. We see so much there. It's so easy to feel defeated and for people to hear me talk and go, well, wow, that sounds like a never ending problem. I'm putting my hands up. There's nothing I can do that's going to make a big difference. And it's not true. This is a problem that can be fixed.
Right.
There's so many problems in the world that can't be fixed. This can, but for some reason it continues not to get fixed. So, I do want people to realize there's so much they can do to help on any given day.
I really liked the point you made about, you said like in all the big cities, there's big organizations that everyone knows about, but there's so many little organizations that people may not know about necessarily. Do you have any that you want to give a special shout out to? Or
Thank you. Yes. Oh my God. I just spent a couple months ago, I was out in Louisiana doing a rural, it's so funny to say that word, rural shelter tour, basically. And I named it Louisianity because it's insanity. These wonderful men and women at these rural shelters are doing absolutely everything. I mean, they're fixing plumbing. They don't know what they're doing, but they are learning how to build kennels and how to patch walls and how to tie, rope together to keep a kennel from falling apart. I mean, these places have zero. They have no money. They have no help. They have no foot traffic, meaning people don't just wander in to adopt a family dog. I mean, just people don't even know these places exist. And so it's insane. And the animals are amazing. They're such wonderfully behaved animals. And so I would say there are a few in Louisiana that I specifically went to. There was Haseas New Beginnings. That was one. It's Haseya's. There was Vermilion Aid Animal Parish. There's St. Landry Parish. There's Point Coupe Parish. They all have their own shelters, and nobody would ever know. And they do so much. And I just would urge people to, if you are going to donate, if you are going to kind of focus on helping, there's always the amazing humane societies and best friends animal societies, and they're great, don't get me wrong. But there are also these little ones that nobody even knows about that really need help. And I also don't necessarily say just hand over money. I think buying goods that they need is way better. And it makes you feel a little bit better too. So if someone's ever kind of concerned about just handing over $100 or whatever, go ahead and buy what they say they need. And that way you know that it's going to certain items that can help.
That's really smart. And that's actually a really good idea. And that way you can, a person that's also donating or volunteering, they can feel confident that their resources are getting placed and have faith in the system. Absolutely.
Yes, because so many people are concerned about handing over money, and so am I. I mean, we work hard for our money, so we want to make sure it's going to the right place and what we want it to go to. So I always say, buy things instead of just handing it over.
Mm-hmm. And I want to tell you, Larissa, I was so excited for our interview today because I know you're as big of an animal lover as everyone here at Welcome Home Doggy. And I know that you probably have a lot of experience or work or just a lot to say against puppy mills. So you want to take that one on?
Oh, yeah. I mean, gosh, you're asking some good questions. Puppy mills, just automatic no. I mean, there is nothing I can say that would defend a puppy mill or condone a puppy mill. Mm-hmm. Now, said differently, there are breeders that I think can be responsible. Okay. Small breeders, small batch breeders. I still don't like it. I still don't condone it. I still don't think while we have the overpopulation problem that we have, that I could sit here and say, sure, great, go keep breeding. Because it's not fair to these animals. One day, if we got the problem under control, might be a different story. Certain parts of the world are way better, and breeders have to get licenses and they're checked out and okay, fine. Puppy mills are not that. Puppy mills are large scale operations where amazing dogs are stuffed in small cages, one on top of the other, if not 18 in one crate, and they are pumped to have babies, and that is it. They are fed once a week, who knows? Their feet get sore because they're basically just sitting in their crate. There's no luxury items for them. There are no toys. There's no socialization. There is no teaching them how to be a pet. I mean, these dogs are bread after bread after bread after bread. And it takes a toll on their body. A lot of them have very specific issues that they get because of the overbreeding. A lot of them have very specific behavioral issues. If you have ever worked with a rescue that specifically saves dogs from puppy mills, you will more than not see that these puppies oftentimes go in circles because they don't know what it is to have space. They've been so confined. Sometimes their joints and bones never have developed properly because they can't, they have no room. So, they walk funny, they're hunched, they have back problems, they have knee problems. I mean, imagine living your life in a small box. Your body can't thrive.
Yeah.
It just can't. And these dogs get so ill, and the minute that they do, they're discarded. I mean, these are not people that go, okay, well, I'm going to breed them until they're not, and then I'm going to give them the best home ever. These people will breed them and breed them and breed them, make money off of all the babies, take the babies away too soon, cause sick puppies that then get purchased for thousands of dollars by these poor families that think, they're welcoming home this dog that's going to grow old with them, that goodness, a month later can die of parvo or of illnesses that, that they never cared for. And then the poor parents are thrown out to pasture, if not worse. I mean, a good fate would be letting them run in the street. It's horrific. And the puppies that are bred, oftentimes, if anything is wrong with them, they've got a deformed leg, they have different color eyes, they have, their hair texture isn't right or whatever, they have a really unfortunate fate. Most of them, they're dumped at a shelter, they're dumped at a rescue, or much worse. And there's no care put into these dogs. And so ethically, it's wrong on so many levels for the animals themselves. On the flip side, for the poor humans that aren't aware or educated enough, that think they're saving up to get the puppy of their dreams, 9 times out of 10 there's going to be problems down the road. If not immediate, then a year later, when all of a sudden you realize, I mean, this happened to someone I know. They did rescue a puppy who was from a puppy mill. They did the right thing in that regard, and a year later they discovered that the back kneecaps didn't grow properly. It cost them at least $20,000 to do surgery on these kneecaps. And thank God the dog is doing well. And thank God they had enough money. They had the means to do that. But can you imagine bringing a dog in that you're ready to live a long life with, and a year in, you're spending thousands? And that's what happens because these dogs aren't, to properly breed dogs, you need to test for genetics. You need to make sure that the strongest dogs with the strongest traits are being bred properly. You don't want inbreeding, you don't want family lines being crossed. It costs a lot of money. That's not what's being done at these puppy mills, as you can imagine.
Right.
It's rough. It is just a really sad situation. And unfortunately, I wish I could say the problem's getting better. It's not. They still are everywhere. And the backyard breeding is everywhere. And that is not quite as large scale, but it's not any better. It's really bad. And so a lot of these people that you see online on certain websites, oops, we had another litter, you got to be so careful when you purchase these dogs, because it's just a bad situation. And it's just horrible. It's horrible for the animals, and they didn't ask for that. And that's, I think, what kills me the most. They don't have a say,
And obviously we know puppy mills are bad, and that. I just knew you were going to bring the passion behind that question.
No, I know you know it, and
everything to us in that capacity. And I also,
it fires me up.
Yeah, I mean, I want to thank you too, because you brought up a good point, saying like responsible breeders aren't the same as puppy mills.
Yes.
You've seen, there are breeders out there and people want specific types of dogs, but that's not the same as someone who's just mass producing puppies all for financial gain. So that's an
Exactly.
important aspect. So thank you for elaborating a bit on that.
Absolutely.
Yes,
Thank you.
ma'am. So let's talk a little bit about how your direct show on Hallmark, has a correlation to families and the dogs that, families get. So how is your show helping actual families?
Well, so, being able to showcase animals on Home and Family when, unfortunately they didn't bring it back for the 10th season, but when we were able to do it, I think not only was it so helpful in educating people out there who, and a lot of them, when I heard emails or got emails or heard messages from them, they had purchased their dogs before, they knew no different. Their families had always bought dogs, and so they bought a dog. So I think just in general, them even realizing that there's such a problem and that there are so many amazing dogs in shelters was really wonderful for me to hear. That made me feel just like we were really making a difference. The other thing is, to me, bringing in an animal into your family completes your family in such a way that other things can't. I mean, it teaches responsibility, it teaches love, it makes you accountable, whether you have children, whether you don't, whether you're looking for a hiking buddy so that you get outside and become more active. I mean, there are just so many benefits to it. So being able to help complete families was wonderful. And I would also say there were so many people that I interacted with that adopted off of either animals that I showcased on our show, or even if that animal had been adopted, reached out to the rescue organization and adopted a different dog from them. So that was even better because then it saved 2 lives. But so many of them were lonely, had lost family members, had lost parents, had lost spouses, were going through tough times of whatever it may be, financially or illness or whatnot. And their animal helped keep them, keep their spirits up. And that was really, really amazing. That was really wonderful. And I'll never forget and I've said this before to people, one of my most favorite moments doing what I did on Home and Family was when I did a segment about, if it was something along the lines of companies that give back to rescues. And one of them was this leash company that took in old rock climbing ropes. So, when people climb, are rock climbers and they have all that rope that they, do. I'm not a rock climber, but
Hey, Chance, are you talking about Atlanta Rescue Dog Cafe?
no, but
Well, just a quick insert for you.
Yeah.
I had a guest on here who did the exact same thing, which is where I thought you were going with the ropes. You turned the ropes into leashes, but that's amazing that there's more people out there doing that and able to connect the organizations.
I love that. Yeah, the one I'm thinking of, I randomly found it like a farmer's market in San Francisco, but that's so cool that other places are doing that. But yeah, so they would reuse people's and turn it into a leash. And this woman wrote to me saying that she was actually really ill and was in the midst of getting rid of all her stuff that she no longer needed and couldn't let go of her rock climbing ropes. Mm-hmm. And after seeing that segment and learning that these places exist where they reuse them for good, she finally felt ready to donate them. And I thought that was so cool. It didn't have anything to actually do with an adoption, but just making someone smile, giving someone peace of mind it just made it all worth it. And there were a lot of moments of chaos and deadlines and craziness, and it was all worth it when you get those emails.
I'm sure you sleep so soundly at night knowing that you've helped so many people with education resources. Well, you know what? I mean, at least it has to play a little part on you knowing that, you get that satisfaction of knowing that you've made a difference, right?
Thank you. I appreciate that. And I do. But, once you're involved in some kind of charity, you can't let go of the ones that you haven't helped yet. You know what I mean? There's always one more.
So Something else that I've been really excited to talk about, which I'm sure you are too, is your book club. I'm just going to let you take the floor on this. Explain your book club to us and what you hope to achieve, how you got it started, all of that good stuff.
Yeah, thank you. I love it. It's called Saved by the Book Club because my website is savedbythel.com. So I was kind of playing up on the saved thing. And it came to me last year during quarantine or pandemic life when I was reading a lot more because I had time on my hands. And I thought, it'd be really fun to start a book club. And there are so many great rescue oriented books or animal related books, whether it's fiction, nonfiction, mystery, a real life story of, an ER vet or, whatever, and create a little group and have discussions and try to meet the authors if possible. So it's been really wonderful. We're almost at our year mark, actually. And every month we meet. Well, we pick a different book. This month is actually this book. I had it right next to me because I was reading it, Pug Actually. And we read the book. We meet halfway through over Zoom. It's all done virtually. We have kind of a fun hour discussion of just the book itself, themes, what we like, what we don't like, all that fun stuff. And then we meet at the end of the month and meet with the author as well. The author joins us. So that's really fun because we get to kind of pick his or her brain and learn a little bit about the process of writing the book. Was it, where did they pull some of the funny things out of the book? Was it their mom? Was it their, spouse? Was it a dog that they had that did something silly? And it's been really, really cool. I love it. Yeah, I look forward to it. And I think, for the most part, it's women that are part of it, but everybody's invited. And we have had a few men jump in as well. It really is it's just like a highlight of the month.
That's funny. And are all the books animal or dog based?
Not necessarily dog, but animal related. Yes. So we read a really cute one about a guy who got married and he was never a big animal lover, but his wife was. She always wanted a farm. So it was called The Reluctant Farmer of Whimsy Hill because he gave in and said, okay, fine, let's get a farm. And it was all the funny scenarios that happened on this farm. And it was based on a true story. We've had a cute cat or couple books about rescue cats that have changed their, rescuers' lives for the better. And then we've had quite a lot of dog books as well. They're easier to find than the cat books or rabbit or gerbil books, but I'm always on the lookout. So anybody is welcome to join. It's completely free. We have a great time, and I always take recommendations if somebody's read a great book as well that they think would make for a good book club book.
Yeah. And to join, do they just visit your website?
Yes. So savedbythel.com, L as in just the letter. There is a tab up top that says book club. You do have to join through that in order to get the Zoom links and stuff, because that's the only way I have to keep track of who's coming and who's not coming. So yes, there's a form to join. It goes straight to my inbox on the website, and then I can correspond with everybody and make sure they're all on the list to get, all the information and meeting times and Zoom links.
All right, well, I'm gonna go fill out my form right after this.
It's fun.
Thank you so much for talking with us from Nashville today, Larissa. It's been great.
Thank you.
And I just want to let everyone know, if they want to know more about your book club or your website or our website, please visit Welcome Home Doggy. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel to see all of our amazing interviews. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram to see all of our beautiful and cute pet videos and stay up to date on information. I'm your host, Ariana Lasha, and this has been Welcome Home Doggy.
Roll over. When you adopt a shelter pet, you discover all the things that make them unique. They're a little bit of a lot of things, but they're all pure love.